Finally, it has happened. Justin Trudeau under investigation by the RCMP with some cabinet members for his role in the worst scandal in all of Canadian history, the SNC-Lavalin affair. Yes, I know COVID is a thing, and yes, I know about the railroad scandal back in the day. This is by far the worst. So I'm happy this is here. Will it amount to anything? We don't know. But it is good that we have official confirmation that he is being investigated by the RCMP, Canadian FBI. If you're out of country watching this and you just hate Trudeau, we love you. So that's what's going on. Now, for all of you who are like, oh, we have bigger things important. What do you mean worse? You have to remember what this scandal was. And we have to go from the beginning. Nothing has weakened our democracy more than this. Canada already has a very poor balance of power. So the background to this is, what you need to know is Canadian political leaders, if you are ahead of the Liberal, Conservative, NDP, have very, very strong powers within the party. You can whip a vote. Think of the President of the United States controlled the House as well, right? So the Democrats in the House just had to do what Biden said all the time. That's kind of the power of the Canadian Prime Minister. Our Senate is a joke, so we don't really have one. And then the Supreme Court is a bunch of ding-dongs who, whatever. So there is very little balance of power in Canada. And the only real check to this is the judiciary. And Stephen Harper saw this, so he created an independent prosecutor separate from the government to sort of help strengthen those balances of power. Or not even balances of power. We have one minor balance of power maybe in Canada. So what happened with SNC-Lavalin? SNC-Lavalin is a French construction company that strong ties to the Liberal government. Yes, they've donated to the Conservatives as well, donated a lot more to Liberal, donated to the Trudeau Foundation, had their board members donate, had to give back donations for making illegal donations. So they lobbied the Harper government. They said no. And then they lobbied the Trudeau government in 2015 when he got in to get them off the hook for a scandal they had in Libya during the Muammar Gaddafi times, prostitutes on a boat to his son to get a contract. They had illegal dealings in Gaddafi's Libya. And if you get hit with a felony conviction as a company, you cannot get a government contract for 10 years. And SNC-Lavalin is a Canadian construction company in Quebec, so they don't really do good work. They just get money from the government to build things that take 10,000 years. So and they get way overpaid to do it. This is Canadian economics. So they wanted something to get them off the hook. So Justin Trudeau listened to SNC-Lavalin and created a new law called a Deferred Prosecution Agreement, so DPA. And he invented this thing basically for this one-time SNC-Lavalin affair, so the government can sort of find someone guilty, but it not be a felony, so they can still fund them money, right? So he invented a way to give them a slap on the wrist, but make sure they could still receive billions of dollars of your money. Now, what happened is they didn't qualify for the DPA because they were clearly committing felony acts, under the terms of the word of law. The independent prosecutor said, no, this is criminal. We're going to go forward with this. So Justin Trudeau started to put pressure on then Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould, who said, no, this is the one balance of power in Canada we have. We have to keep the government, the Prime Minister's office can't be deciding who's innocent and who's guilty in the country. That's dictator stuff. You cannot have that. And Jody was right. This is a very principled stand. And shout out to Jane Philpott as well, another Liberal cabinet minister who stood with her and got kicked out of the party. So those two were right about balance of power and ethics there. We might not agree on everything politically, but that was what happened. Okay, so you had Trudeau being lobbied by SNC-Lavalin, who's given him money, creates a special law for them. It doesn't get passed. It doesn't work at the DPA. They tried to pressure Jody Wilson-Raybould to pressure the independent prosecutor. Again, highly illegal stuff. Again, not illegal, but also a crime of statecraft, destroying the country level nonsense. Banana Republic stuff. She refuses. They keep going. Gerald Butts, Katie Telford, Michael Ward, all the Liberal establishment gets on and starts pressuring and threatening Jody Wilson-Raybould. Finally, the threats are followed through on. She is removed from her post as Attorney General and insert David Lametti, a Trudeau lackey who will do whatever Trudeau wants, gives the DPA and all this different stuff. Jody Wilson-Raybould is kicked out of the Liberal Party. She wins as an independent, leaves politics, slacking shirt all the way. This is, if you think of the American thing, right? So if you think of the Americans have the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary, right? The executive is the president, but can prime ministers combined with the House, right? Because he can whip the vote there. So you have half the legislative. And then the Senate in America is a real thing. It's not a real thing in Canada. It's make-believe. If you believe that Canada has a Senate, you're lying to yourself. So that's a joke. So we just have the judiciary, right? It's the prime minister and the entire political party establishment against the tiny judiciary. That's the only balance of power. And what Trudeau did is he said, ripping it out. We're throwing it out. I have complete control over who's innocent and who's guilty in this country when I want to. Hail Trudeau. And he got away with it because the media would get on and cover, they'd be like, oh, it's such a complicated scandal. Canadians can't possibly understand. And they would play how are the Liberals going to respond to the scandal? Do you think the Conservatives can keep the scandal going? Never explaining it. So it was purely contingent on the Conservative Party to keep in the media. They couldn't because they suck, and they suck at everything. I remember doing it right before the election cycle when this, I believe 2021 or 2019 election cycle. I can't remember which one. No, 2019, sorry. Right before the 2019 election cycle, they did a lead story on SNC-Lavalin, and I timed it on CBC, 34 seconds. And then they went on and did over 5 minutes on Trump and the fake Russia scandal. So this is sort of how the media, right, works in together with this. So that's the fourth estate, the supposed balance of power that the public provides the media. Well, no. Trudeau, the House of Commons, the Senate doesn't exist, and the media are all rolled into one, and they managed to overtake the judiciary, and Trudeau became a quasi-dictator, and it weakened our institutions. And there's this whole thing about, trying to keep cabinet confidentiality, which they didn't really need to, and all this high legal stuff. So finally, we have confirmation the RCMP is investigating this. So in a functioning country, this would have been a major scandal, and Trudeau would have had to resign over this probably face some sort of criminal prosecution. In Canada, we're 4 years later, and maybe the RCMP will look at it. But at least we can now say Trudeau is under investigation of the RCMP because he has destroyed the country. So there you go. Lock him up.